Okay, good morning, everyone. Okay, we'll be waiting for another 2-3 minutes. Okay, because
Okay,
we're
man.
going to
I will
start
proceed.
that. Okay, we'll just wait for another 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Multiple. Okay. So
Yes, sir.
today our topic, the first topic is hormone transport in the blood. Okay. So far we talk about a little bit of their synthesis. Okay, their synthesis, how they are stored, and how they are secreted into the extracellular fluid. Okay. Now the hormone has reached the extracellular fluid, let's say the blood, okay, or it has entered the blood vessel. Now inside the blood, how hormone is transported. We'll be discussing it today. Okay, synthesis we have already talked about it. Okay, storage we have already talked about how they are stored inside the endocrine cell. How they are secreted also we have already discussed. Okay, in brief. So after secretion, it means they will enter the circulatory system. They are now in the circulatory system or in the blood. Okay. Now, how these hormones, different hormones, how they are transported, okay, to the target organ. Okay, hormones, they are transported by the cardiovascular system or by the blood to their target organs. Okay, so hormones are transported through target cells, through the circulatory system, okay, to the circulatory system and the tissue fluid after their secretions from the endocrine cells. So here it is very clear from the endocrine cell, here this hormone is synthesized, it may be stored or not stored, okay, and then it is secreted. So in this example, by the process of exocytosis, it is secreted and then entering the capillaries, okay. Now this has to be transported to the target organ, okay. So this is another example, another type of hormone. Okay, just excuse me. Okay, now as blood plasma is aqueous solution, so we all know that plasma is an aqueous solution. That means watery solution. Okay, it is not a lipid solution. Okay, or not even the alcoholic solution. It is aqueous solution means it is water in nature. The solution is the solvent, we can say it is the water. Okay, and we all know that plasma is an aqueous solution. So That means a hormone, okay, whether it is peptide hormone, steroid hormone, or even the tyrosine-derived hormones, okay, that hormone, it must either be water-soluble hormones, okay, or if it is not water-soluble, it will bind to the water-soluble molecules, okay. So a hormone can either be water-soluble, okay. That means it will be soluble in the plasma, it is clear, okay. But if the hormone is water-soluble, it cannot be dissolved, okay, or let's say it cannot be transported in the free form. So it should bind to the water-soluble molecules. These soluble molecules, they are nothing but the protein, okay. And here we can say this group of hormones, they are lipid-soluble hormones. You remember or not, steroid hormones as well as the thyroid hormones, okay. So it will be clear in the next slide, okay. So
Sir, you are not audible.
the structure is composed of both carbohydrate and amino acid. Okay, catecholamines you already know. Pardon?
Slides are not visible, sir.
From the beginning, it was not visible.
No, sir, right now.
Oh, then you didn't tell me. Okay, so okay, sorry. I have to share again. Visible now or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll start from the beginning again. Okay, today we are going to discuss about hormone transport in the blood after they are secreted into the blood. Okay, how hormone is transported to their target organ. Okay, as I told you here from the diagram, it is very clear that after being secreted, hormone enters the cardiovascular system. Now the blood will transport them, or cardiovascular system will transport them to the target organs. Here we have two diagrams, okay? So we always know that plasma is an aqueous solution. Aqueous solution means watery solution, okay? It is not alcoholic or lipid solution, okay? Plasma is an aqueous solution, and you know that hormone is transported by the plasma only. So after entering the plasma, okay, how it will be transported, how hormone will be transported depends on the type of hormone. Okay, it means a hormone must either be water soluble. Okay, it may either be water soluble. That means hormone is soluble in the plasma. Okay, it is soluble in aqueous solution. Okay, so we can say this group belongs to water-soluble hormones. So the second one, a hormone may be, it is not water-soluble, okay, water-insoluble. That is why it should bind to water-soluble molecules, okay, water-soluble molecules. So in this diagram, in the second diagram, you can see after entering the bloodstream, okay, sorry, after entering the bloodstream, you know, this hormone, it binds to the carrier proteins or transport proteins. Okay, that means this hormone, it is not water soluble, so it should be bind to the carrier protein so that they can be transported to the to the target organs. Okay, so there are two groups of, we can say, hormones. Okay, depending upon how they are transported. Okay, or their solubility in the blood. Okay, now let's see first water soluble hormones. Okay, water soluble hormones, as I told you, these include peptide hormones. Okay, peptide hormones, the structure is, or we can say, it is composed of amino acid. Glycoprotein is also there. Glycoprotein also in the classical classification of hormones, it comes under peptide hormones only. But this is composed of carbohydrate part as well as the protein part. Okay, and even the catecholamines, these are amino acid derived hormone. Okay, they are also water soluble. Okay, they are soluble in water. Okay, so this group belongs to water soluble hormones. Okay, so you see the diagram, the first diagram. Since they are water soluble, they can be transported as free hormones. Okay, free hormones. Here, after entering the bloodstream, you can see that the hormones, they are in free form. They are not bound to any transport proteins or carrier proteins. Okay, they can be transported as free hormone to the target organ. Okay, they diffuse out of the capillaries into the interstitial fluid and to the target cells. You just see the second diagram. Okay, so these hormones, this is carried by these capillaries. Okay, when the hormones, when they reach their target organs, okay, they will be diffused out of the capillaries. Okay, simply they are free hormones. Okay, they are not bound to any carrier proteins, so because of that they can diffuse easily again out of the capillaries when they reach the target organ. So here you can see the target cells. Okay, the target cells will be influenced by these hormones. Okay, so water soluble hormones cannot diffuse through the cell membrane. Okay, so this is its difference again. These hormones must bind to the surface cell membrane receptor. Some peptide hormones such, okay, the first point and the second point, you just concentrate on these two. Okay, water soluble hormones, they cannot diffuse through the cell membrane of the target cell. Okay, so we know that this is the capillaries. Okay, this is the capillaries, the blood vessels. So hormone, they are free through the capillary pores. They can easily escape, okay, into the interstitial fluid. Now they have to influence the target cell. How they will influence the target cell? These peptide hormones or glycoproteins or catecholamines, they cannot penetrate the cell membrane of the target cell because this is water soluble hormones and the cell membrane is composed of lipid bilayer. Only lipid soluble hormones they can penetrate. Okay, so because of that, usually the receptor, okay, they have to interact with the receptor which is located on the surface or in the surface of the cell membrane. Here you can see this is the receptor. Okay, so after diffusing out of the capillaries, this water soluble hormones, it should bind to the receptors. Okay, it should bind to its receptor so that it will change the function of this target cell or it will influence the metabolism of this cell. Okay, so as I told you, this hormone, okay, it cannot penetrate the cell membrane because this is lipid bilayer. So, but this the hormone is water soluble. Okay, only lipid soluble hormone they can penetrate the cell membrane. So instead, the protein hormone or this water soluble hormone, it will bind through its receptors here. Here binding is taking place. Okay. Now what about the second group, lipid soluble hormones? Okay. So steroid and thyroid hormones are lipid soluble. Okay, steroid and thyroid hormones, they are lipid soluble. That is why, since they are not soluble in the plasma, okay, they cannot be soluble in plasma. that is why they have to bind to their carrier proteins. Okay, here this is the carrier proteins. These carrier proteins, they are nothing but the plasma protein only. So most of the steroid hormones and thyroid hormones, they are bound to their receptors where they are transported to their respective target organs. Okay. So they are mainly bound to plasma protein in the blood after their secretions from their respective glands. Okay, so it is clear from the diagram. Okay. Okay, what are these transport proteins or carrier proteins? There are two types. Okay, number one, specific transport protein that binds specific hormones. Okay, specific transport proteins are there. Okay, that means specific plasma protein which will bind to a particular hormone only. Okay, a particular hormone or specific hormones. Okay, let's say aldosterone hormone only, or that transport protein or carrier protein is specific for only, let's say, testosterone or estrogen. Okay, it may be specific for estrogen, but testosterone can, let's say, progesterone cannot bind to that hormone because it is specific for estrogen only. You got my point or not? Specific transport protein. Okay.
Yes,
It
sir.
means if it is a transport protein for estrogen, okay, it cannot bind to any other hormones. That is why it is specific for estrogen. Okay, likewise, if it is specific for progesterone, okay, estrogen cannot bind to that specific protein for progesterone. Got my point now? Okay, so this is specific. The second one is non-specific transport proteins. They are also there that can bind several types of lipid-soluble hormones simultaneously. That means it is non-specific. Okay, this non-specific transport protein, it may bind to so many types of hormones. Okay, so that they can be carried to their target organ. Okay, the transport proteins are produced and broken by the liver. So we all know that plasma protein synthesis is there in the liver. Okay, so there are two types of carrier proteins or transport proteins, specific and non-specific. Specific transport proteins belong to a group of plasma proteins known as globulins. Globulins also you already know. Okay, specific transport proteins, okay, they are globulin in nature. Whereas non-specific transport protein, they are albumin. That means albumins, they can bind to different types of hormones at a time. A particular albumin may bind different types of hormones at a time. But globulin belongs to the specific one. Okay. One globulin, one type of globulin will be specific for a particular hormone only. Okay. Plasma proteins are large protein molecules that cannot pass through the capillary walls. So you already know, here you see the diagram. Okay. Bound form are here. Okay. For example, this is the bound form. Okay. Don't think that the steroid hormones and steroid hormones and thyroid hormones, they are not totally in the bound form. Okay, that I'll tell you in the next slide. It is clear. Okay, some will also be in the free form, but the percentage of the free form is very, very less as compared to the bound form. Okay, plasma proteins are large protein molecules that cannot pass through the capillary wall. Okay. So it means that these plasma proteins, okay, plasma protein or the hormone, we can say, it should get detached from this plasma protein before it leaves the, blood vessel, okay, to influence the target organ, okay. That we'll see. However, a small fraction of hormone molecules, that means on around 0.3 to 10% is not bound to the proteins, and these are the free form. Okay, here you can see one diagram. This is one hormone. Okay, this yellow in color, and here, which is this one triangular shape. Okay, blue color. Here you see this one and this one. Okay, both of them, they are the free form. That means, but the free form is around 0.3 to 10%. Okay, and rest they are in the bound form. Okay, and you see that from this diagram, only the free form can escape out of the capillaries, not along with the bound form. So that is why this hormone, okay, this hormone which is attached to the carrier protein, it should get detached, okay, when it is going to escape out of the capillaries and to influence the target organ, okay. This complex hormone as well as a carrier protein, they cannot come out of the capillaries. Only the free form, it should come out. That is why when this hormone is going to influence the target organ, it should get detached from the carrier protein and escape out of the capillaries and influence the target organ. These hormones molecules can diffuse from the blood into the tissue fluid where they interact with target cells and exert their biological action. So this is very important. So you know that now we are talking about lipid-soluble hormone. Okay, lipid-soluble hormones. That means lipid-soluble hormone means here you can see the cell membrane is lipid bilayer. The cell membrane of the target organ is lipid bilayer. So since thyroid hormones and steroid hormones are lipid in nature, they can easily penetrate the cell membrane of the target organ. Okay, so in the previous water soluble one, in the water soluble one, usually what is required is that surface protein receptor is required. Okay, this one also we'll discuss in detail afterwards. Okay, but in case of steroid hormones and thyroid hormones, the hormone can penetrate the cell membrane. But it does not mean that all steroid hormones will use the intracellular receptor. But here they can also utilize the surface receptor. Okay, that will be clearer afterwards. Okay, here the point is that the free hormone, the steroid hormones and the thyroid hormones, they can easily penetrate the cell membrane of the target organ because the cell membrane is composed of lipid bilayer and thyroid hormones and steroid hormones. They can be easily, okay, dissolved through the, this cell membrane lipid bilayer. Okay, so usually now this point is important. Usually below 10% of steroid or thyroid hormones in the plasma exist in the free form. Okay, but this also depends on different types of the hormones. Okay, but usually at least 10%. Okay, only 10%, below 10%. Okay, of the steroid or thyroid hormones, they are existing in the free form in the blood. For example, here you can see, let's say, okay, more than 99% of thyroxine in the blood is bound to the plasma proteins. Okay, here this diagram is showing the example of thyroxine. Here you see 99%, okay, more than 99%, they are in the bound form. Only and less than 1% is in the free form. Okay, but this will be different for aldosterone, all this in cortisol and all. Okay, but regarding that thyroxine, okay, the free form is very, very less. Okay, however, protein-bound hormones cannot diffuse easily across the capillaries and gain access to their target cells. Okay, protein-bound hormones. Okay, this one I already told you. Okay, so the bound form, I've already told you, the bound form, they cannot escape out of the capillaries. That is why all these bound form, they are biologically inactive. So this point is very, very important. Okay, the bound form, the hormones which are bound to the plasma proteins, they cannot do any function. That means they are biologically inactive. Okay, to be active, okay, they have to get detached from the carrier protein. So they should be in the free form. Okay, they should be in the free form so that they can influence the target organ. Okay, bound form, they are biologically inactive. Okay, so the relatively large amount of hormones bound to protein serves as reservoirs. So the importance of the bound form is that they can act as the reservoirs. That means when the free form concentration is going up, down, or when they are going to be used up, okay, some of the bound form hormone, they will get detached from the carrier protein and become the free hormone. Okay, that is why the bound form of the hormone, they are acting or they serve as the reservoirs for that particular hormone. Okay, this reserves, okay, this I already told you. So also binding of the hormone to plasma protein greatly slows their clearance from the plasma. Okay, so this point is very important. Earlier, I told you that the action of thyroxine, it may take weeks, even months together. Why? Because most of them, they are in the bound form. Okay? So to have a full effect, okay, all those bound form, they should get detached like that. Means they can have their full function, okay, after a long period of time, okay? The small concentration of free hormone molecules are in equilibrium with the much larger concentration of protein-bound hormone molecules. So this is very important, equilibrium. Suppose thyroxine was around 99.7%, okay? It is in the bound form, okay? And only, let's say, 0.3%, they are in the free form, okay? Suppose this is going down, okay, 0.3 is also going down. That means because the target cells, they are utilizing it, okay? At the same time, this from the bound from 99.37%, okay? Some will get detached to maintain the 0.3% again, or to maintain 99.7% of the bound form, okay? So that is why they will always be in equilibrium, okay? Hormone transport protein complexes are formed and broken continuously. Okay, that means the bound form, free form. Okay, for example, free hormone. Okay, after they are secreted here, it binds to the transport protein. So it becomes hormone transport protein complex. So this is the bound form. Okay, here the free hormone and the free transport protein. Okay. And let's say this is transported to the target organ. And when it is reaching the target organ, let's say the hormone is getting detached. That means this will become free hormone and transport protein again. Okay. So as long as formation and cleaving occur at the same rate. Okay. As long as formation and cleaving occur at the same rate, the concentration of free and protein-bound hormone molecules remain unchanged even though the individual hormone molecule constantly alternate between being free and bound to the proteins. Okay, so just like the previous slide, I've already explained everything. Okay, cleaving, formation and cleaving means binding of the hormone to the carrier protein. Okay, or cleaving means detachment of hormone from the carrier protein. Okay, it is occurring at the same time, rate, formation and cleaving. So that 99.7 and 0.3% will always be maintained. Since bound hormone molecules cannot leave the capillary, only the free hormone in the extracellular fluid can convey information about the hormone concentration to the hormone producing cells. Okay, so this point is very important. I've already told you only the free form, they are biologically active. That is why only the free form, they can send information to the endocrine gland, which is producing that hormone. Okay, so when we estimate the concentration of hormone in the blood also, we are talking about the free form. So for example, when pituitary cells detect a drop in the concentration of the free thyroid hormone molecules, secretion of thyroid stimulating hormones from the pituitary gland. Okay, means concentration of free thyroid hormone only. Okay, not the bound form. Okay, this stimulate thyroid formation. This thing we have already discussed previously. Okay, there is something is wrong. Okay. Okay, these are just a repetition only. Okay, direct and indirect, all these things we have discussed. The transport proteins have several important functions. Okay, what are the functions of these transport proteins? Okay, number one, I've already told you, it acts as a reservoir. Okay, you just go like this. Okay, you already know how it acts as a reservoir. Number two is that this transport protein, they are acting as hormone buffers also. Okay, why this is possible? Because only about half of the binding capacity of this protein is utilized under normal circumstances. It means that when hormone is released, a particular steroid hormones or thyroid hormone is released, only about half of the binding capacity, they are utilized. Okay, half they are still free. When an endocrine gland increases its secretion quickly and releases large amount of hormone over a short period of time, most of the hormones released is bound by transport protein in the plasma. That means when there is increase or sudden increase in a particular hormone secretion, okay, that another half which are free, okay, those free plasma proteins, they can bind to those excess hormone which are just secreted. This limit the increase in the concentration of free hormones. Okay, it will limit the increased concentration of the free hormones. Okay, because most of them they will bind to the plasma proteins and consequently maintain the hormones biological action. Transport protein thus protect the organism against adverse effect of excessive hormone release. Okay, so this buffering action of the transport protein is also very important. I'll repeat once again. Under normal condition, approximately around half of the binding capacity of the transport proteins they are utilized. Okay, suppose there is sudden increase in the secretion of a particular hormone, that another half which are free, okay, proteins, carrier proteins, they can be utilized to buffer or to bind to those suddenly released hormones. Okay, so this will prevent the excessive or sudden increase in the free form of the hormones in the blood. Okay, so that is important. So another function of these carrier proteins are that protein binding reduces loss of hormones through the kidneys. This is possible because only small fraction that constitute free hormones molecules can pass through the glomerular membrane, but significant amount of certain protein-bound hormones can be excreted by the kidneys through the tubular secretion. So this is very simple. Okay, you already know very well. Suppose this is a carrier protein and hormone binds here. Okay, hormone is smaller. We can say this complex, it cannot be filtered by the kidney. Okay, when it is in the bound form. Suppose this is in the free form, hormone can easily be lost in the urine. Okay, so these carrier proteins or binding proteins, they are very important in preventing loss of hormone through the urine or kidney. Okay, so that is regarding the transport of the hormones in the cardiovascular system. Do you have any question?
So, sir, can you please explain the previous point?
Which one? This one?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, I'll repeat. Okay, here you see. Okay, so hormone, they are transported in the blood. You just see the diagram. Okay, so this, what to say, violet color, let's say this is a carrier protein. Okay, or that plasma protein which bind the hormone. Okay, now let's say the hormone. Okay, hormone is, let's say, this green color. Okay, it binds to the carrier protein. So this complex, the bound form can never be filtered by the kidney. Okay, it can never be filtered by this glomerulus because it is very big. Okay, even plasma protein, they are not filtered. We have already talked about this one in excretory system. Okay, it cannot be filtered. So that means this hormone, it will not be filtered. The bound form of hormone will also not be filtered because it has bind to this carrier protein. So that is why it is preventing the loss of this hormone. Okay, loss of this hormone. That means this hormone will also not pass into the Bowman's capsule. Okay, it will remain there inside the bloodstream only. That means it is conserving this hormone. Otherwise, if it is in the free form, okay, this hormone will be filtered here and it will be excreted in the urine. So this protein binding, it reduces loss of hormone through the kidney. Okay, it is preventing loss of this one. Okay, is it clear or not? Now,
Yes, sir.
okay, now let's move to it. So the last topic is, we still have around 15 minutes. Okay, we'll finish quickly. So hormonal receptors. Now you know that synthesis we have discussed, storage we have discussed, How they are secreted, we have discussed. How they are transported in the blood, we have discussed. Okay. Now, after they are transported through the bloodstream, now the hormone is now reaching the target organ. Target organ is the organ where hormone should have influence. Okay, that is the aim of the action of the hormone. Okay, so now they are transported here, now reaching these are the target cells or target organ, let's say. Okay, hormones convey information to the target cells by binding to the receptors. So this is very important. Okay, a hormone should bind to its receptors to have influence on the target cell. Okay. So the target tissue that are affected by a hormone are those that contains specific receptors. So this point is very, very important. Okay, I think you already know this one. Okay, why ACTH is targeting the adrenal cortex? Because adrenal cortical cells, they are bearing the receptors for ACTH.
Neither me, neither you.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So another example, for example, FSH. Okay, it is released from the anterior pituitary gland. Now, its target organ is ovary. Why it is targeting ovary? Because ovarian cells, they are having receptors for FSH. You got my point? If there is no receptors, this FSH cannot influence the ovary, function of the ovary. Likewise, different hormones, as you know, they are having different receptors, specific receptors. Okay, but some hormones, as you know, like growth hormone and thyroid hormones and all, they do not have, we can say that they are having so many target organs, is that they are generalized. We can generalize that in that they are affecting all the tissues of the body. That means they are having receptors in all the tissues, tissues of the body. Okay, is it clear or not? This one, specific receptors, target tissue. Okay, cells that lack receptor. Okay, cells that lack receptor for hormones do not respond. Okay, if a cell is not having a receptor for that particular organ or hormone, okay, it cannot respond at all. Okay. Receptor hormone binding is very important, okay, to have influence on the cell. Now, hormonal receptors are large proteins. Okay, receptors, I think you already have some idea. Each cell that is to be stimulated usually has some 200 to 1 lakh receptors. Okay, so now you can say that in a single cell, okay, there is a lots of variation regarding the number of receptors. It may have around 200 receptors, but this cell may also be having 1 lakh receptors for particular hormone also. Okay, each receptor is usually highly specific for a single hormone. Okay, so specificity is always there. Okay, each receptor, a particular receptor, is usually specific for a single hormone. Okay, or a particular hormone. This determines a type of hormone that will act on a particular tissue. Okay, that is why I've already told you. Okay, FSH, when it acts on the ovary, because ovary is having that a specific receptor that is only for the FSH. Okay, regarding this receptor. Okay, although other hormones, they will also act on the ovary, but the receptor will be different for those hormones. Okay, when the hormone combines with its receptors, it activates a series of reactions in the cell. Okay, this one though we'll discuss in the mechanism of hormonal action. Okay, now where can we find all these hormonal receptors in the target cell? Let's see first the cell membrane. Okay, let's see first the cell membrane. Means that some hormonal receptors, they are located in or on the surface of the cell membrane. Okay, here you see the diagram. Okay, so this is the cell membrane, lipid bilayer. Here you see the receptor. Receptor, as you know, it is protein. It is a large protein. Okay, here the hormone binds here. Okay, from outside. Okay, so the membrane receptors are specific mostly for protein. peptide and catecholamines. Okay, membrane receptors, they are mostly specific for the protein hormones, peptide hormones, and catecholamine hormones. You know those things we have already discussed. Okay, usually they are these protein, peptides, and catecholamine hormones. Their receptors are located in the cell membrane, not in the cytoplasm, not in the nucleus also. So it is located on the or in the surface of the cell membrane. Why I call it in? Because sometimes they penetrate the cell membrane. Okay, but here you have to remember that some steroid hormones, okay, some steroid hormones are also having receptor located in the cell membrane. Okay, not only protein, peptide, and catecholamines utilize the surface receptor, but some steroid hormones, okay, steroid hormones, they may also be having their receptor in the cell membrane. They are present inside the the receptors for different steroid hormones are found almost entirely in the cytoplasm. Okay, almost entirely in the cytoplasm. So here you see this is the receptor for this steroid hormone. Okay, it is present in the cytoplasm. Okay, but you also know that surface receptors, they may also utilized by some steroid hormones. That in the previous one we have already discussed. But most of the receptors for steroid hormones are present in the cytoplasm. Okay, most of them, they are present in the cytoplasm. Okay, now what about the nucleus? Okay, so even inside the nucleus, hormone receptors are present. The receptors for thyroid hormones and some steroid hormones are found in the nucleus. Here we can see here, this is the receptor for the receptor present inside the nucleus. Okay, they are believed to be located in direct association with one or more of the chromosomes. That means they are important for the protein synthesis. Okay, so now you just say here steroid hormones as well as thyroid hormones, they are utilizing the nuclear receptor. We can say the receptor present inside the nucleus. Okay. So these are the, okay, now let's see. Okay, before that, I'll repeat once again. Okay, we still have another 6 minutes. I'll repeat once again.
Sir, you are not audible. Sir, you are not audible.
Can you hear?
No, sir.
Your voice is
Voice is not there. It's okay.
It's
only
breaking,
here
sir.
though. It's breaking, maybe because of the network problem. Okay. Can you hear me now? Clearly.
sir.
Okay. Now we'll move ahead because we don't have time. Okay. Now let's see the number of receptors in a target cell usually does not remain constant. Okay. So this point you have to remember it. Suppose a particular target cell is having, let's say, one lakh receptor. But this is let's say 20,000. Okay, that means it is not constant. The number of receptors present in a particular cell, it is not constant. From day to day or even from minute to minute. Okay. So the receptor protein here you can see in this diagram. Okay, the first diagram, receptor, lots of receptors are there. But here down replaced on the receptor here, there are only 4 number. Okay? So this is having some significance, I'll tell you now. Okay, the receptor proteins themselves are often inactivated, destroyed during the course of their action. Okay, well, sometimes the receptor, okay, they may be inactivated or they may be destroyed. because of action of hormone also. Okay. Another time, either they are reactivated or new ones are manufactured. Okay, by the cell. Okay, that means there will be a regulation. That means increase the number again. Okay, or new ones are synthesized. Okay. So here is okay.
The ones in your hand.
This is the last.
My hand on.
Can you hear me?
I will turn off my curtain.
Okay.
Oh,
This is start.
Yes.
Okay,
Mm,
fine.
fine.
so the level of hormone is chronically reduced, target cells engage in upregulation increase their number of receptors. When the level of a hormone is chronically reduced. Okay. Another class has already started. Or what? Anatomy class has already started. Hello? You have not started? 11. It has not started now. Okay, this is the last slide. Please listen carefully. Why there is change in the number of the hormones, hormonal receptors in a cell. Okay, when the level of hormone is chronically reduced. Okay, suppose there is a reduction in the hormone concentration. Okay, hormone concentration in the blood. Okay, target cells engage in upregulation. Okay, to increase their number of receptors. When the level of a hormone is chronically reduced, when there is reduction in the hormonal, level, okay, particular hormonal level in the blood. Okay, target cell, they will engage in upregulation to increase their number of receptors. To decrease number of receptors for that hormone. And suppose there is a significant level of hormone. The level of hormone is normal or higher. Okay, in that condition, there will be decrease in the number of hormones. This cell allows the cell to become less reactive to the excessive hormone levels. Okay, suppose the thing is that here the opposite thing happens. Okay, means hormone level it is very low. Okay, so because of that, all the there is decrease in the number of receptors. Okay, so that this will prevent excessive activity of the hormones. This for today. Thank you.